Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there who wants to find us, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs and at Justin Bizzarro. You can also find us at Gorilla Brave, the community we're building there for the food and beverage entrepreneurs, and then the supporting services that help support them. Education is the main purpose, and fellowship for you guys there. There will be events. There are summits. All those dates are going to be coming out, actually, are already out as this podcast is released, since we are ahead in pre-recording and populating the year. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. And you can also find this show and the other shows we do on Spotify or wherever you grow yourself through podcasts. So with that being said, I have Noah and Vita here from Meon Neon. It's really fun to say, actually. I was thinking about it today. And so we're going to dive into Noah's story first, as we sort of teed up this episode. And so, Noah, let's talk about you, your story, all the way down from little Noah. And I mean, you have a biblical name, so obviously a lot was bestowed upon you just by your name alone. So there's I love this. I want to hear your story. I want to know your journey.
Yeah, well, it all started when I built the Ark. So
it's very colorful. It's all neon. Yes.
But yeah, my name's Noah. I am 24 years old, so I'm a youngin', but all started when I was graduating. I'm going to start the journey from when I graduated high school. I had a couple businesses throughout there, and I actually got my first capital raise when I was 16 when I started a company. But then graduated high school, and I was like, I don't want to go to college. So I went ahead and bought a one-way ticket to London and flew to London. I'm an Irish citizen as well. So I was able to just go over there, spend some time, spend 4 or 5 months just hitchhiking all around the country, Western and Eastern Europe, just because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to enjoy a little bit of life, have a taste of things, have a taste of the world before I kind of jumped into life. And then I got back and I was like, I knew I always had high ambitions. I knew I always enjoyed working and collaborating on my own projects. So wanted to make something happen. Didn't know what, but so I got a job. I did entry-level sales.
Do what everyone does. Gets a job.
Exactly, yeah. And so started entry-level sales and kind of found out I was really good at that and just worked my way up in that company really quickly until I was doing ops and stuff like that. And then the director of the marketing department was like, hey, I'm going to go up. I'm going to start my own media company. And he's like, I know you're really good with it when it comes to a lot of this back-end business stuff. I would love your help. So we both just, without any plan, anything in mind, we just quit our job and just jumped right into things. And we were like, that's the type of thing that'll put some fire under your ass to be like, hey, I got to get moving. When you just quit your job like that, that's the right motivation that gets you to making your business work out. So yeah, went through all that. That got to a point where I didn't want to continue down that road. So I then became a real estate broker. I still am a real estate broker. And that led me to start a smoke shop, a Boba Cafe, Meon Neon, and several other businesses. But it all started with the smoke shop when I had a client/friend who was like, I want to start a smoke shop. So I was taking him around. His partner bailed out, and he had been telling me about the industry the whole time. And I was like, let's do this. Let's bring our ladies in on it. So then it was me, Vita, and him and his lady, and we all started Sky High Smoke together, which ended up being, we got super lucky with that being like the first real brick and mortar business that we made. We got super lucky with that just being a success out the gate and paid off everything that we had put into it. Within our first 2 months of business, we got paid back everything we put into the business, and then we're profitable, which doesn't happen often. We got really lucky there, being right on Broadway in downtown, and kept doing real estate and kept reinvesting everything I made into new projects I wanted to do with the whole figure out how to get a business on autopilot, get a management team in there, and then jump onto the next. And yeah, that's kind of everything in a nutshell. But yeah, I mean, get just to the food part. I own a boba cafe. We just got nominated Best of Mile High and for one of the best tea shops in Colorado, and things are going well over there. So then I started that about 7 months ago.
What's that called? The boba.
Boba Boba Botanica.
Perfect. Why boba? Why the
Um,
Please help me connect the pieces here, because like the smoke shop to the boba. I mean, I agree the industry's there, but why for you? Why?
So yeah, I was one of the reasons being in the smoke shop industry, you are similar to liquor and weed, you are at the mercy of the government and the state a lot of the times, and the regulated changes that can happen on a regular basis that cause you to pivot. That can be quite annoying. So I wanted to mainly do something in a different industry, but also ever since I was 16, I had always had, for no reason at all, always wanted to start a boba shop. And because I remember I grew up uh, towards like the high school part of my life, I was in Castle Rock, and there was never any boba tea shop around there. And I was like, this is trending. This is what everybody likes, especially in an area like this. And I also saw a lot of margin to it, right? I was like, tea is really cheap. They sell these drinks for a lot. And yeah, I thought it was going to be like a golden egg. I was like, tea is super cheap. I'm going to make a bunch of money. There's a bunch of margin. And then going from the smoke shop business to the boba business, I realized two completely different ball games, two completely different types of businesses. And it ended up not being half as easy as I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh, the smoke shop worked out really well. You know, I can start a boba shop. I can figure it out. Never made a boba in my life, but I'm going to do it. And I mean, in the end, it ended up working all right, but there was a lot of challenges faced in the beginning that I wasn't expecting or prepared for.
Let's talk about the difference of the challenges. There were some in both, I'm sure, at the beginning before you knew the smoke shop was going to make any money. There's the challenges getting it open. Then there's the challenges of getting a food business open. Two things that you just went through, and two different industries, but they'll eventually, I think they teach you more. So I just want to talk to you about that. Talk to me about getting those businesses open, because regulatory wise, you're dealing with two different things there. So now you've got both experiences, whether you like it or not, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like with the smoke shop, I mean, that's retail, a lot less of hospitality type basis, different, completely different customer base. And so getting that off the ground was like, okay, yeah, cool. I need to stock my shelves. I need to get my licenses. I need to get rolling. But then you come to the boba shop, and we did the construction, everything ourselves. Looks really nice, but completely different customer base. And then I'm sure everybody that owns a restaurant or is in the food business just loves the health department. So we started
yeah,
we submitted all of our stuff. Yeah, were you gonna say something?
just gonna say, it's about as fun as paying taxes, except the tax man shows up all the time, and
Yeah,
so we go on.
exactly. Yeah, it's like we are, in our case, I mean, it's different for everybody, but we went ahead, submitted all of our stuff for the license, went through all the back and forth, and they were like, you're all good to go. Here's your license. The health inspector shows up for the first time, and he's like, I don't know who approved these plans for your build out and where you put your sinks and everything, but it's not going to work for us. You have to change it. And after approving something, they told us we had to change it, which ended up spending another $15,000 in rebuilding the build out and moving sinks and plumbing and a bunch of stuff around. And that was super annoying. The hit in the beginning we weren't expecting to take. But also, I think the mistake that every business owner makes is you set a budget when you're starting up, and you set a budget for what you think you're going to make and what you think the margins are going to be before really getting into anything. And then it ends up being completely different. Because I'm over here like, oh, tea's going to be so cheap. Everything's going to be so cheap. great margins. And then you get into it and you're like, is it something I'm doing wrong? Or, I mean, you always go over budget, right? We planned to start it with like 50K and then ended up spending a lot more than that. And we thought drinks were going to cost this much. And then slowly you end up upgrading your ingredients and changing things around to figure out what really works. And then your margins are completely different. So I think just like overall, I mean, it's a completely different beast with
Yeah, and Boba
that
is a
presented a
different
lot of
beast.
challenges.
And Boba
Yeah.
is a different beast within the industry. I mean, that's something I, you know, I just think it's a very unique sector, and sourcing boba and sourcing tea and some of your products tends to be a little bit differently. You have to like really know things and do some research because it's not as a mature of a supply chain in a lot of cases. So, I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
it was. I mean, you obviously found all the ingredients. You were able to build a boba shop. The tweaking around the sinks is my favorite part of health inspectors establishing themselves in your business. They each have their way and interpretation of the law that, I mean, it's just the way it is, but there is always, even from city to city and town to town and state to state, even though I have all the same drawings, and what was passed in one place and like gloriously praised in one place was garbage in another place. It was one of the
Yeah.
craziest things. And my head would just spin. Eventually, I just became tolerant of it, and I learned how to expand without spending money on that type of stuff as much, and allowing redrawings and everything and contingencies in there, but it does end up costing more. And you're probably right about the number. I used to figure about 50 to 100% more budget in my budgets. By the end, it was like maybe an extra 2.5 times just in case, because the health inspectors, especially during COVID, got a lot of power. And so
Yeah.
they can throw your budgets way off. It's a lot of power given to a government over our businesses. And keep in mind, they were the ones that helped shut down food businesses during COVID in the places that weren't supposed to be open. So that's just for everyone to acknowledge there. Not that it's a bad industry. If it's done right, it keeps everyone safe and healthy, but we've got to pay attention that it does have a negative effect on the business owner.
Yeah.
And it is curveballs constantly, and things happen, and then we don't pass health inspections, or the government changes laws and we don't pass. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to not have to go through the battles of COVID in any of my businesses. I really didn't start anything of an entrepreneurial journey until after except for real estate throughout COVID. But yeah, I have so many friends in the industry who talk so much about the struggles and everything, and I feel lucky that I didn't have to go through a lot of the struggles and challenges they went through. I only started everything up just about 2 years ago, as far as brick and mortar and retail.
Yeah. Talk to me about now Meon Neon. How does this come into the picture? Where does the idea come? Like the business, all of that, because it is an interesting segue as well. Now you've done the food thing, but now you're also getting into signage, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So in all my retail and brick and mortar endeavors, it's been whenever we want signage, it's been crazy expensive. I was like, when we were getting our first quotes and stuff, I was like, how are you charging me $15,000 for a piece of metal, some plastic, and some lights?
Now everyone knows. I wanted to talk about boba too, and we will talk more about it. But everyone now knows why I had you guys on this episode, because it literally is the thing that punches you in the face at the end. You're like, how much could this possibly cost? A sign. And then all the loopholes and all of the costs and all of the things. So go on. I love this. I like that you're solving a problem.
Yeah. It was permitting and all this stuff. And so when I was starting the smoke shop, and I was like, you're out of your mind. And I then started doing tons of research and tons of looking into it, and found this wholesaler that Fast Signs was using to get all their signs. They were the wholesalers that were wholesaling custom signage to Fast Signs. And I was like, I sent them the same design that I sent Fast Signs that they quoted me at like $15,000 for. And they're like, yeah, we can do it for about 2,000. And I was like, what? You're telling me that Fast Signs is over here and charging me an extra $12,000. That's a huge margin on a high ticket item. And I understood why the signage industry is so massive. I came in here and I was like, so I can still make money by approaching businesses and offering them half the price that all these other signage companies are charging them. I can come in here and I can say, because I realized the industry was kind of a sham. And I was like, I want to come in here and make it affordable for small business owners and still make beautiful signage and come in here and do all this stuff. And so I saw that opportunity for just like, I can come in here and beat everyone's price and still offer a beautiful product. And so I did that for my businesses. I used them for, and this was something where it wasn't an official business. I got it first for Sky High like 2 years ago. And then after that, since I knew them with my other friends in the industry or not friends who were starting businesses, I'd be like, yeah, I can take care of your signage for you because I knew I had that connection and knew I could help them out and get them a really good price and everything. And so it was just this little thing I was doing on the side for my friends that were opening businesses. It's like I was taking care of their signage, opened the boba shop, took care of that signage, everything from like neon. Yeah, we do. The main focus is neon signs, but I do those big storefront signs that are like 20 feet by 5 feet or whatever it is as well. Not as much as something that we market, but something that we do for a lot of our customers. And so it's did it for all my businesses and it evolved into, hey, Vita and I were sitting down. We're like, hey, Sky High and Boba are kind of running smoothly now. And we wanted a new project to endeavor. And we thought this would be a great idea, something where we can come in, offer a really competitive price point for the same exact thing. And yeah, so we decided to make it an official company, give it a brand, everything like that. So I've really been doing it for like 2 years, but it wasn't until like 6 months ago or so that we're like, hey, we're going to actually give this company a title, form it, and start marketing it and go at it full force. And since then, it's been really incredible what we've been able to do for like when I'm able to approach a small business owner and or they approach us and they're like, hey, this other company quoted me $20,000. And I'm like, hey, we'll do it for 8. And then we finish the project and they see the final product. It is amazing to see their face that like, I understand as a small business owner how much of a wrench these things can throw in things. So when I'm able to come in and not throw as huge of a wrench and still give them something beautiful that's able to help their business shine and get noticed and really reinforce their branding, it's been something that Vita and I have like over everything. It's been something that gives us so much more passion in life. It's like all the other businesses, I feel like we're started a lot of how can we make money, where Meon Neon has been a thing where it's like we're actually passionate and driven by it because just being able to, it sounds cheesy, but being able to help business owners out and do all this stuff and create the art and see the final product and everything is something that like actually brings us joy. So it's something we've enjoyed more beyond just the money that comes out of it.
Okay, let's talk about building each one of these companies from an employee standpoint, a staffing standpoint. Boba is food service employees, restaurant employees per se. You know, the smoke shop, that's what I would call a hospitality employee, but a very specific niche. Then you have the Meon Neon, you're talking about design, build, install, a little bit more of what I would call a tangible operation going outside of the brick and mortar where you're actually moving around doing things, correct? So talk to me about each one of these, building the team. When you say the team is built and you feel comfortable, what is the gauge? Not the financial gauge, but the gauge inside of you as an entrepreneur that tells you that it's okay.
I think we'll start with the smoke shop. And I think overall with all of them, the biggest gauge is when I feel like I have a management team that I can trust. And obviously, and when it comes to a business you've built and it's your baby, it's especially if it's your only one, it's like, this is my livelihood. This is something that's feeding my family. It can be really hard to take the step away. And I think that's something that a lot of business owners struggle with is being so involved in the day-to-day operations, not giving themselves as much time to live life and be with their family because they're so scared to pass off the talking stick. And it's something that is scary. So I feel like those times for me has been when I, for example, the smoke shop, it's fully staffed. I have an assistant manager and a manager, and I have spent so much time working. Me and Vita both have spent so much time working side by side with our manager and assistant manager that I got to a point where we're like, you truly know every aspect in and out of this business, how I like to run it. You have made contributions to this company that has made it all the more better. And so it got to a point with the smoke shop where it's like, we Oliver runs it front to back and holds all these events and continues to push success out of it and do more than honestly we would have been able to give it running other businesses. And so when we realized that, we were like, we can really kind of pass the stick to him and trust that he's going to continue this running on autopilot for us, manage the team, manage what needs to happen. And I think when that's the main thing is when you get to a point where you have a management team in place and you trust them and you know that they are capable of knowing how you like to do things and how you like to run your business, that's the point where it's like, okay, cool. And of course, I think also having more than one manager, right? You can have your GM, but have an assistant manager or everything, because I think something that can be hard to bank on and something we did bank on in the past in Sky High was like, we were at a point where we had a manager and everything, and we were like, oh, everything's good. Everything's rock and rolling. We're focused on our other stuff. And this is kind of just on autopilot. And then that GM quit and went to go that's a whole nother story that oh
We
my
can
god.
dive into that for sure. Yeah. Dive into
But
it as part of your journey.
he so he just quit and we were like, okay, shit, what do we do? It takes time to really turn somebody into an asset like that you trust to hand your talking stick on. So Vita went and she jumped back in full time to operations and got getting things rolling again. And then we found Oliver, who's been great. But it's been a lesson to in your management team to have tiers so that if your GM quits, you know that you also have that assistant manager. They've spent so much time working beside your GM. They understand things. They can step up and take that stick. And so just always having kind of a safety there is good and having multiple cogs in the machine. But yeah, so that's like kind of my defining point for passing things off. And then with the boba shop was a tough one a lot of seasonality in that type of business. So summer, when we first opened, things were insane. We had a constant line, constant revolving door, and it was more than, and in the beginning, we were just like, me and my business partner, Andy, and Andy and I are 50-50 on the boba shop. I met him because he also owns a smoke shop. So we were both in the industry. He was sitting on some extra real estate that was empty that he didn't know what to do with. And that's where we were just we were having a conversation one day. We were like, what are you going to do with that space? I was like, what if we started a boba shop? And he was like, okay, let's do it. The next day we started doing construction. It was just like that. And so getting all that live, him and I started, we were like, okay, well, obviously we want to make sure before we bring staff in that we have everything solid. So we're going to work it ourselves the first few while because it's not like we just bought a franchise and got a book handed to us. We need to figure out how we built the brand from the ground up. So we had to figure out how we were going to run everything, how we wanted to do everything, went through multiple different pieces of equipment. And it requires really being hands-on in the beginning to really fully form the idea because no idea just comes fully formed out the gate. So so we've been hands-on and it's been open for like 6 to 8 months now or something like that. And we've been really focus. 2 months in, we made the mistake of, okay, God, we are tired of working this 24/7. We are going to hire a full staff. And we weren't prepared for that. So Andy and I were just like, boom, let's hire 6 people and just kind of like let them run it. And that was a mistake. So we realized that we had no proper training in place. We had no proper this in place. Drinks were coming out all tasting different. So, and we let it go on for a little while until we were like, until about like 2 months ago, where we were like, we just need they're not doing things right. And two, we're taking a little bit of a dip for the winter months and the colder months. And so we're like, we had to let everybody go. So come to today, I'm working 2 days a week, and then Andy's working the other days, and we're keeping it open ourselves up until summer comes back around. We really spent this time developing a lot more training, getting a lot more in depth into all that kinds of stuff, and just making sure that next time when spring comes around and we hire a full staff again, we're prepared and we know how to execute on that better. I think it's easy in the smoke shop industry to just hire someone who knows their way around the products and say, hey, stand behind a counter and help check people out, versus, hey, here's over 300 different drinks, make the recipes the same the exact time, measure things out exactly. Oh, and you also have to do it really fast because we have to get the drinks out quickly. We got Uber Eats, DoorDash, and everybody walking in. And yeah.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot of moving pieces. Standard operating procedures become one of the key pieces of a growing business, especially in food, just because of all the ingredients and moving pieces, and people tend to not measure things out, especially in food service. You got to keep an eye on, and that's a whole other training that goes on. The moving into Meon Neon, staff, training, different skill set. I mean, the sign industry has people out there, I have to assume, that are already qualified to do a lot of this stuff. Is that where you started, or how do you recruit into your business now?
Yeah,
it's different.
So with Meon Neon, it's right. What are we at the core? Since I mean, at the core, we're not a signage company, right? At the core, we are a sales company. That is what, because right, our main goal is get leads, move signage. And so the primary goal of it was, okay, we need to have a sales team, people that can take the inbound calls. Spend tons of money on Facebook and Google ads. So we have all these leads that are coming in. Vita and I, our heads are in so many different places that we're like, okay, we can't handle 20 people coming in each day asking about signage. So we're like, we need a team. We need somebody that can handle these, someone who can really be attentive to the customer, help them find their perfect sign, and then help close them. And so that was step one. We now have a sales team of 8 people. And that was just kind of that. Most of them are people that we know and people that we just knew were good at sales. And we kind of built the team off that. And then as far as installations, I had a friend who's been a general contractor in the commercial world for a very, very long time. And so kind of brought him in. And when it comes to a sign, it's installing the sign, and then it's the electrical. And so he's able to take care of a lot of that. When it comes to the smaller neon signs, which is most of what we feature on our page, because that's the main focus of the company, those are things that are a lot of the time easier for us to install. And I prefer to have my salespeople go in, especially when it's local. I mean, there's some people that don't want us to film. There's some people who don't want us to install it for them. And there's a lot more that are sold out of state that we ship across the country. So as far as like any sign that's sold in the area, I encourage the sales guys, hey, go install the neon sign for free. Because in all my time, such as like when we go install a sign, if I'm going and I'm installing a sign, the other business owners around are coming up to me. I'm passing out business cards. And every time I personally go and sell this and install the sign myself, I am able to close while I'm there one or two of the other business owners in the area when I'm like, hey, super affordable, it'll light up your business. And they come up to me and they're like, that's so cool. How do I get one of those? And so I've really encouraged, rather than having a random installer over there, hey, go out there, one, connect with your client more, build a relationship. It's good to have relationships in business. And then also you'll probably talk with some of the other business owners while you're there. And so that's kind of been the process as far as in state goes. And then any out of state stuff, we've just begun starting this with out of state bigger signage, and where we need an install team. That more comes down to when we're doing massive signs. For example, I have a EMC, those giant Jumbotron screens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have one of those. We make those as well. I have one of those that we are installing for a smoke shop, and we're doing another one for a liquor shop now. And those are signs that most companies sell for $30,000. And then usually at this we have a general size that everybody gets, and we sell those for $20,000. And that's going up. And those are so much more complex. That's where I'm like, I need an electrician. We need to rent a giant truck that's going to be the lift and everything. These signs themselves weigh over a ton. So it's like, those are much more complex processes. Those are also where we dive into complex permitting. I mean, even with this one, I'm still back and forth with the county right now trying to get the permits. It's just comparable to trying to get your food license. It's like, I'm going back and forth. They're asking me for one thing. They're like, we have everything we need. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, psych, we need this, and this. And so it's like, that can be a really challenging part when it comes to a lot of these bigger signs.
I know when you're in the food business, you're trying to open a restaurant and you're trying to deal with the signs. So having a company that handles a lot of this for you is a big godsend for sure. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I mean, you're growing this business. There's other businesses involved. Concentration, you're talking about the boba shop, I think, which is the part of the conversation here. You're managing a lot. Okay. Let's talk about you're young, you're having success. How do you manage your time? How do you manage things, temptations of a 24-year-old, all the other things that go on? You're staying focused, you're staying dedicated. Let's talk about drive, ambition, integrity, some of those things.
Yeah. So I've always been business minded. I think that I get a lot of that from just my family. Every single person in my family is a business owner. My uncle owns Crowley Marine and the boat dealerships. And then my cousins own different stuff in the liquor business. And so it's like, everybody in my family has always been a business owner. And so being surrounded by that growing up, I naturally became passionate and driven towards doing that. And so that's kind of where things started, is in high school and even in middle school. I was doing little things like, in middle school, I went on Alibaba and I bought hundreds of phone cases that looked really cool. And I went around school selling them and made for like $10 a piece. I got them for like $2 a piece and was making a killing doing that. And then I recruited different of my friends to help me sell these phone cases, where I give them $3 for every phone case they sold. And so I built like this little network in middle school. And then when I first got into high school, I started developing my first online e-commerce brand. And this is when those subscription boxes were getting super popular. And so I started one of those. It started going really well. I started watching videos endlessly. I'm a big self-educator. Started watching videos endlessly and on ads and everything, developed this brand. And then I started going to these pitch things or Toastmasters meetings and stuff like that as a 16-year-old kid and getting on stage and teaching myself speaking and everything. And after one of my speaking about my company, this random guy came up to me and offered to angel invest like $5,000. And I was like, I thought I was on top of the world. But so yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of got sidetracked there, but overall, it's been like I I've always been driven. I've always loved self-educating, and I've always been like, I want to build something awesome. And overall, I think it's turned me into somewhat of a workaholic because I truly love working on these projects that are my own, can be whatever I make of them. And I love seeing something grow and seeing something that I made grow. And so overall, I love what I do on a day-to-day basis. And that, like you say, managing a lot of all this has not come without its sacrifices. I don't really pretty much throughout building all this, lost all my friends. Don't really talk to anybody anymore. Besides, like, gotten better at it. Most of my friends in my circle now are business owners. I think it just naturally flowed into surrounding myself with less of my friends who were sitting around smoking weed all day, going out and partying and doing all that. And more of just like most of my friends are like in their 30s and business owners and kind of happen naturally. But I pretty much just wake up, work throughout my entire day, bouncing between things and getting stuff done, and then hang out with Vita and then go to sleep. And that's kind of just been on autopilot every day. But I enjoy it. A lot of people think I'm crazy for just like sitting and running all around and working constantly. But I'm like, this is what I do for fun. This is what I enjoy, is just continuously growing my projects and seeing them grow. And so I think in the beginning I've learned through mistakes with that, because it can become easy to put everything on the back burner. And obviously, like, family's still important, and there's better ways to go about it. And these are things that I'm still learning today, is how I can grow things in a more sustainable manner. But it's just all part of the journey, and things that I'm learning as I go is how to manage these things. And I think it's really good that I'm like, my ultimate goal is to build a portfolio of more and more companies. And that's why I formed Crowley Capital. It was just like investing, getting equity in private companies and continuing to grow my companies. So really a big thing is, like I said, getting it up and running, getting it on autopilot, and then what's next.
I love it. And I have a few more questions for you, and then let's talk about mentors in the education process, maybe individuals that have helped you along the way more than others. The reason I ask that, because I know what it's like to be 24 years old and starting to build companies and have multiple companies, and then those companies are starting to grow and sort of trying to stack them for growth. You know, for me, it was a lot of vertical and horizontal integration at first, and then into restaurants and sort of other things. But
Yeah.
the thing that happened for me that I was very fortunate is I had a group of good mentors, maybe individuals in our businesses, just by the nature of building a business so young, that were also older, that taught me a lot about the businesses too. So it's an important question, and I always ask it because I think it's important to always have them in different capacities. And then just to anchor this, then my friend groups aren't even close to the same, even if they are the same anymore. It's an interesting thing. Do I have a fellowship group? Probably. I would call it more of that, business-minded individuals centered on similar core values. Yeah, absolutely. But the friends that I had, it's just hard as an entrepreneur. We change, we grow, our purpose is different. In our 30s looks so much better because we invested in our 20s than everyone else around us. And it's not on purpose. It's just, you do the work. As an entrepreneur, you're working 2 to 3 times more hours a week than your peers. You can guess what your 30s look like. You can guess how fast it takes an entrepreneur to get to 10,000 hours who's building multiple things in multiple avenues and multiple businesses across multiple things. You know, we talk a lot about being a Renaissance man as an entrepreneur. That's sort of what we're talking about here. You're learning different skills that ultimately will stack up to more business opportunities. So that's the question is about mentors, but I just wanted to commentary on the last part you said as I went into that question.
Yeah. It is really about skill stacking. And that's why I think it is important to delegate a lot of things. But at the same point, I want to know some aspect of everything. And the more I can stack those skills, the more prepared I'm going to be and a more advanced CEO as I grow. But yeah, mentorship is something that I guess I wish I had more of. I kind of didn't really have any mentors. I think it would have helped a lot. I had mentors as far as people I would watch on YouTube and books I buy. I have a whole bookcase full of different books. But I think a lot of my mentorship came from those books. I mean, I had other people in the business world that I could knock questions off of here and there, but I never really felt like I had a real mentor who was able to hold my hand and always be there for things. It's something I think I could have avoided a lot of the downfalls I've made, but not falling flat on my face as much. But I never really had anybody that was by my side or older or anybody that really helped mentor me. Besides when I was younger, the guy who helped me with that first $5,000 angel investment when I was 16, he definitely spent some time with me helping me like answer questions and being someone who was able to give me some insight to the world. And I go to a bunch of networking events all the time too, trying to get more networked. And a lot of those conversations do teach me a lot of lessons. So I think that's a great way that anybody can kind of get some insight. Is like a lot of these networking events, you can meet like-minded people that are in the same industry as you, and plenty of opportunities to bounce questions and gather ideas and learn lessons and things that you can help avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. I am going to say this just based on what you said. The greatest mentors in life come weirdly. It's interesting when you're as young as you are. And I said I had a lot of great mentors for sure. The greatest mentors I had came with the credibility as I got older, and that distance that people don't see yet between you and your peers starts to become bigger. And people are like, oh my gosh, I want to invest in this person. I think that'll come for you too. I did notice that as well. As soon as I got into my 30s and that gap started widening, there was a lot more people willing to invest in me or pay attention to me. There's also a lot more people willing to take advantage of me also.
Yeah.
But there is that, which is why the circle has to remain small. And why what you're going through with friends and everything else is preparing you for your future. I just want to note that there's an armor that's going on around you, protecting you. And then to go back to what I said at the beginning, you may not be building arcs, but you're building businesses. You may not be saving animals, but you're creating jobs that help families down in the long run. And as your legacy builds and these employees are with you 20, 30 years potentially, you're not only that, you've built their homes with your ideas and your visions. You've sent their kids to college. You've put food on their plates. So you have that ability, and you've started at a young age, and you have the ability, your legacy and your impact and your influence is enormous.
Yeah. And I know I still have so far to go. I am not an expert at everything. I have so much more to learn. And so I'm really excited for that journey and to learn and to grow and obviously I will find mentors and people that will help me grow further and further. And yeah, I'm excited for that whole journey. I'm only getting started.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do another episode for Vita. We covered you all this one. I'd love to do one for her also, since I know things got a little off. If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, she's here now too.
I mean, I could roll into another episode if you guys wanted. It's up to you.
Yeah, do you want to? I could pass the phone to her and
sorry to interrupt, but yeah, we'll just do that. Then we'll have Vita on another show, and as we close off here for the audience, that'll give the audience an excellent something to look forward to, something excellent to look forward to. And I
Yeah,
can't talk right now.
no worries.
And we'll hear the businesses from her perspective and what it was like to come in and sort of what I would call task force the operations in the smoke shop and get it back up to speed. I like that. I think that's a good angle for everyone in the audience. And then Noah, as we're closing off here for the audience, you tell everyone where they can find you, they can find your businesses, the locations of your businesses, so on and so forth, websites, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So Sky High Smoke is at Smoke Sky High on social media, at smoke or smokeskyhigh.com. And it's 64 North Broadway in downtown, right off Broadway and First here in Denver. Boba Botanica is 2049 Wadsworth Boulevard. That is kind of next to Casa Bonita in Lakewood, Colorado. It's bobabotanica.com. And it's at Boba Botanica on social media. And then Meon Neon is at Meon Signs on social media, meonneon.com. And we're located right here in Arvada. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And I'm sure Vita's excited too. She's going to share a completely different side of the story and everything. And yeah.
And is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we get off here, or anything you wish you knew maybe 2-3 years ago that you know now?
Yeah, just that I think for the longest time, I was trying so hard to achieve things in business. And I also got that paralysis in learning that I never started because I was just like, oh, I'll read books and everything. I got to know everything before I dive into this. But really all it is that if you have an idea or a passion or something that you want to execute on, just do it and fall on your face, and you'll learn the most lessons along the way throughout experience. And so I really, really try to, whenever my friends talk about business ideas or anyone in general, I'm like, dude, if that's something you're passionate about, if that's something that you want to do, just go after, just execute, take the action and see what happens. You know, that's how you're going to learn the most, is through experience and falling on your face a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Noah, for your time. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you guys a lot. I appreciate what you're doing, not only as a food entrepreneur and as a business entrepreneur in hospitality also, but trying to give food entrepreneurs or restaurateurs or business owners a better option for signage. I think you discovered something, and instead of just not dealing with it like everyone else does, everyone just puts up with it. You found a way to provide something better that helps everyone. And that's a huge value, and it's worth every penny spent, whoever buys the signs, because that's good for the world. And you're right. There is a little bit of a cornering of an industry that was going on there. So yeah. Thank you guys for listening in the audience. Guys, please continue to like, share, pass on. If you like the businesses, go to all of Noah's businesses, like, share, comment, follow them. If you're in Denver, visit. If you're building a restaurant, building signage, obviously you know where to go. It's in the title. I'll put the links in the show notes. So why is it important? Because it's important that we support and do business with those who have good core values, good morals, ethics, and are trying to help us do business better. Helping us do business better is providing us with better solutions also, and good relationships, while we're also supporting them build jobs, and that company as a vendor build more signs, and supporting them how, also telling everyone about them. You know, there's lots of ways to benefit and build an industry and support and keep goodness going and good business. That's okay. So thank you everyone for listening in. I love you guys, and we're out.